Well, if you clicked on this video, it probably means you're interested or just curious about becoming a traffic controller in Australia. If you're not in Australia, this video may not apply to you as there may be different kinds of licenses or qualifications, things like that. It may vary, so try and find a video that's closer to your own home. But for the most part, this is going to teach you what kind of qualifications, what kind of licenses, what kind of things you need to buy, and what kind of things you want to have on your resume in order to become a traffic controller, as well as how the job goes, how much you should be getting paid, and places you can move up to while doing this job. So without further ado, I'm going to start off with tip number one. Learn where to fucking get a license. Licenses are basically the only way you're going to get into this industry without doing, let's just say, illegal shit. So you're going to need several things. A white card, otherwise known as a construction induction card. You are not legally allowed to be on a work site without a white card. You'll be sent off if, the head of the site finds out you don't have one. So that is something you need to get. They're usually around $100 to $150 to get, and they have a 1 day course. The courses themselves are so fucking simple, you would need to be purposefully trying to fail them. The teachers and assessors, they end up just giving you the answers, letting you write them down before the test starts on pieces of paper. It's ridiculously easy. And don't worry, courses around $100 to $150, they are quite good value. Try to go into that price range. There are a lot more expensive courses that may take longer. They're not worth doing, trust me. So first of all, get your white card. Then you're going to need your actual traffic control licenses. You might be thinking, oh, I'll just get my traffic control licenses first and then I'll get my white card. No. A white card is a prerequisite to getting into any course in the construction industry, not just the traffic control industry. So try to avoid messing up the timings of those courses if you decide to do all of them at once. But anyway, the traffic control courses. There are two separate courses you need to do to be qualified to become a traffic controller. The first is a stop slow bat course. It takes about 1 day, and courses range from around $150 to $200. Like the previous one, it's so simple, you'd need to be purposely trying to fail in order to fail it. And the other one is traffic management. It essentially means you look at a piece of paper that tells you where to put signs when you're doing the job. If you don't know what I'm talking about yet, don't worry, we'll go over that in more detail in a bit. But for the most part, once again, it's all really simple, common sense shit. You should be able to do it without any issues. And all up, those three courses, should run you back maybe 3 days, possibly 4, depending on where you go. You can do them in any order as long as you do the white card first. So I suppose you can't really do it in any order. Anyway, don't worry about that. One other thing I would recommend getting in terms of courses and licenses is a certificate 2 in first aid. A lot of employers look at that on a resume and they see it as an absolute win. But it does require a little bit of pre-study because it's first aid. You need to actually have some knowledge about what you're doing. You have someone's life in your hands possibly. But courses range from around $100 to $200, really varies on who you go with, and it only takes 1 day to complete. Most of these licenses expire after 3 years. You need to get them renewed, do a refresher course. They're pretty cheap. But for the most part, you don't really need to worry about how much it costs initially, as you're going to make dividends on your, let's just say, investment on yourself. But we'll talk about how much you'll be getting in a bit. So, we've gone over the licenses, what you need to do. If you don't know where to go to get them, literally just do a Google search. It'll come up with a bunch of different education, TAFEs, whatever, in your local area. Shop around, see which one works best for you, and see if you can do it in the right order so you don't have to mess around with the office staff going, why don't you have this piece of paperwork? Why don't you have this and that? Blah, blah, blah. So just use your noggins, you'll be fine. So, second of all, your resume. Now, I'm no fucking expert when it comes to writing resumes. I'm just a local idiot. But for the most part, you just want to follow a few key points, especially when you're going into the construction industry, as employers tend to be a little bit different from your, corporate bigwig types. You want to have hard skills. Hard skills means things like actual physical, in-hand skills. I have, say for example, a manual license. I know how to drive big rigs. I know how to do X and X. Instead of just, I'm a good communicator, I work well in a team, because everyone can write that on a fucking resume, and employers just look at that and go, it's useless. Don't bother talking to me. But other than that, make sure you add your qualifications that you do get, because if they don't see those, they're not going to bother, because, if they can't even bother to tell me that they're licensed to do this job, then what the fuck is the point of hiring them? Anyway, moving along from resumes, we start getting into the important stuff. Your pay rates. Yeah, that's where it is, some money. Your pay rates, who you want to be avoiding, what you want to be doing. So, in the traffic control industry, specifically in Victoria, but probably goes for across Australia, you're going to be paid a lot of money in the casual positions and not that much in full-time positions. You want to be going for your casual positions when you go to get hired for a company, as I believe the base rate right now is about $30.60. That's the minimum amount you are to be paid as a casual doing traffic control. You get overtime, I think the rate is around 1.5 to 2 times, and you also get night rates. That's where the money is. You want to try and aim for those once you have a little bit of experience in the industry, but of course, getting a job is a lot easier said than done. What you want to try and do, go for smaller firms. Don't go for the big, massive, we have 100 trucks in our yard, we've got the biggest business in all of Australia. You don't want to go for those. Aim for smaller, locally run companies, possibly just with an older guy, because they tend to do a lot of smaller jobs, because, they're getting older. They don't have to be, going up a massive site every single day. And they'll teach you from the ground up. I'm speaking from personal experience, of course. I'm not going to name names so you don't find out who I am, because I like my privacy. I don't like being doxxed on the internet. But for the most part, you want to try and aim for smaller companies when you start up. But if you can land a job somewhere else, by all means take it. Just watch out and make sure they're paying you the right amount. You can check your award rates on a bunch of different websites, award rates being the minimum amount you are to be paid for any specific type of work, and just go from there. If you don't get paid enough, then just don't apply. Likelihood is, if they're not willing to pay you enough, then they're also not going to be treating you well. And being treated like shit on a job site, I can talk from personal experience, is not fun. So try to avoid that. And number 4, this one is about the actual job itself. What are you going to be doing? What is it like? Should I just pack up my bags and fucking go before I start this job? Well, the actual job itself, it's varied. And you've probably all heard the stories of sitting around doing sweet fuck all for 8 hours on end and getting paid for it. That does happen. There are shifts like that where you just stand around, talk to a couple of mates, have a couple of fucking drinks. No, I don't mean alcoholic. Maybe I do, but that's really up to you. And you just relax. And you pack up your stuff and just go, and you've had an 8-hour day. Other days, you're going to be on your feet for the entire fucking thing, running around like a headless chook, trying to get 100 different people to move. It varies. But for the most part, especially when you start up, I'll walk you through just how a day would go. You get to your site, you put all the signs out, because you need to put out signs, of course, and you start doing traffic control. Traffic control varying from just standing out on the road with a stop slow sign, making sure people don't hit each other, guiding pedestrians around certain areas so they don't trip over a piece of concrete and sue the plant for about $100 million. Or you could just be talking to the worksite, making sure they know, hey, don't turn left. there's a giant fucking hole, you'll die. That kind of thing. It varies from day to day, but most of it is just really simple common sense shit. And you'll learn it all throughout doing your qualifications and your licensing. And one small little thing, you may think after the first few weeks, oh, this job is so easy, I've learned everything. No, the basics of the job are dead simple common sense shit. But there are a load of nuances to this job that would take hours for me to explain. Just for the most part, use your noggin and just pay attention and listen to your boss when he tells you stuff, because trust me, most of the time, they do know what they're talking about. But other than that, one last little thing before I end this absolute abomination of a video with absolutely no moving backgrounds, and honestly, I don't... How the fuck are you still here? Why are you listening to this? Anyway, number 5, that would be the industry itself and areas you can move up to that pay a lot more. So, of course, traffic controlling pays a decent amount of money after you start getting involved in the industry. However, there are places such as traffic management plan writers, where you write out traffic management plans, which are essentially pieces of paper that show you where to put signs. They get paid a shitload. And by shitloads, I'm talking 150k a year. Yeah, a decent fucking pack of money. You could probably afford a couple of KFC buckets, you know what I'm saying? You could also become an inspector. Everyone hates them, everyone despises them, but they get paid better than everyone else on the site, combined. Around 150 to 200k a year, but, you know, sources are pretty stodgy on that because not many people actually know anyone who's an inspector. They're pretty rare, the positions are hard to get into, but if you can crack it, you will get paid shitloads. And of course, the union sites. Union sites, you need to be in a union, you need to know someone in the union, you need to wait until someone fucking dies before something opens up in the union. But most union work sites, well, you'll get paid around $2,500 a week to do the easiest, most simple jobs out there. The reason why everyone wants to get in the union is because of that. You don't work in a union, well, you're kind of fucked, unless you know someone in the union. But if you can crack it, amazing money in the industry, try to get it. And beyond that, I don't really have any more experience or anything to really tell you. You can comment down below something if you've got a question. I'll probably answer it relatively well. I'm not the biggest expert on the industry. I'm just trying to give you some kind of idea on what you should be doing. Anyway, this has been an absolute abomination of a video. Like and subscribe, I guess? That's the most generic thing I could say in a YouTube video, but, you know, like and subscribe if you want to hear more about my complete and utter fucking ramblings about traffic control. Ooh. But in all seriousness, hope this helps. Comment down below if you got a question, and have a good one. Cheers.